Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. Nate Edwards, Nathan Hurst. Before the box score, shut out in Tuscaloosa. Hurst.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I have a headache. I'm not sure if it's because of the game that I just watched or because I'm dehydrated from the day. I don't know, but that's where we are. But yeah, it's a sad day in Mudville at the moment.
Number 15, Alabama Crimson Tide, 34 points. Number 21, University of Missouri Fighting Football Tigers, 0. 0 points.
Yeah. First time since 2019 that Mizzou has been shut out.
Boy, you know what I do not care about? I do not care about that at all.
I agree.
All.
But let's stay right up at the front. I am very glad that Drinkwitz went for it on fourth down.
Yes.
And go from the 1.
Yes.
In the past, he hasn't done that. He's chosen to kick the field goal. He could have done that this time, especially once it was obvious that Alabama came out with their first teamers again. But he didn't. They went for it. They didn't get it. But I'd much rather go out on my shield than take the coward's way out for sure.
Yeah. This isn't some streak since 1972. Right. This is 5 years. I have kids older than that. This is not important. It's not. You need to do exactly what they did, which is try to score a touchdown, and they didn't. And who cares? The difference between 7 and 0 is nothing to me. It's still a bad loss. So here we are again. It feels like 2021 when Mizzou could only win by a little or lose by a lot. That's what it feels like. And I don't know why. I know part of it is because they don't have the explosive plays anymore, but like it's you learn so little in losses like this. And against, power 4 competition, I think, Mizzou's minus 48 point differential, which doesn't mean anything. You still got to get the wins, and they do have them against power 4 competition. It's so lopsided when they lose that you can't learn anything because you're not running your stuff. Nobody's running their stuff. So it's like you losses provide opportunity to learn, and it's like there's nothing there.
Well, what we have learned is that this team, as it's constituted, cannot win on the road against good teams. That's for this season. And at this point in time, in 2024, this team cannot go on the road against a good team, ranked or not, and come out with a victory. Beyond that, they can't go in on the road against a good team and be competitive because we haven't seen that twice. Now, the 2 losses that they have suffered in this way have been very different. I think I would not, other than the score looking fairly similar in terms of the final difference in points. Those were 2 very different games in terms of how the team played, how they came out, their motivation level, their execution level, a bunch of different things. It was very different, but at the end of the day, they were uncompetitive in both. So that's what we've learned. It's disappointing based on where we thought the program was and where we hoped, or at least where we hoped the program was in terms of being at a point where they would be able to go and be competitive in these games. And we talked about back in early in when I first started doing this with you back in January, or maybe it was February, we talked about, to look at the schedule and they're going to have to go and win one of these games. And these were the 2 games, Texas A&M, Alabama. Those are the 2 games. But you could throw in Oklahoma there. We weren't quite sure how bad their offense was going to be. But it was one of these 2 road games you had to win. And they didn't. And they didn't even win it. It's not that they didn't win. They got blown out in both times. So that's disheartening. That's what we learned. But that's not where they are right now. And that's where they need to be if they want to be where we all want them to be.
I mean, we kind of knew that Drinkwitz stunk on the road, but I also agree. This is not A&M because Brady Cook was lost after the 3rd possession, 4th. It wasn't a lot. I remember that. Fourth. He walked off. Yeah, he was seen going to the locker room around the 7-minute mark of the second quarter. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possessions that he's had. Yeah, 5. So not a lot. Not a lot. And I will tell you, I mean, we're talking about things that we learned. I know it wasn't pretty, but I think the game plan was going about as well as you thought it could when Cook was in the game. Now, he was not super mobile. He was running for his life out of the pocket when he probably didn't need to every single time, but he was still doing it. But this is the Drinkwitz playbook, right? This is sumo wrestling, right? You get right up in there, you make it ugly and uncomfortable for everybody, and then you hope that you're just sticking around when time's running out and you can get those last points and get out of there with a victory. It's how he did it in 21. It's kind of how he did it in 22, and that's how he's doing it this year in 24. And I think it was working. I mean, 5 drives, 6 points for Alabama. 5 drives, 6 points. And Mizzou had moved the ball, but it was very clearly like kind of conservatively. Hope that the defense can flip the field for you, get some good field position where you can knock in a field goal or a touchdown and just hang around and hang around and hang around. That's the Drinkwitz MO. And it was working. And then Brady hit the locker room early to get his hand checked out because he bashed it on a helmet twice. And Drew Pine decided to go Leroy Jenkins and just could not see the defense at all and threw an interception. And that was basically it. Staff packed up. Cook said, "You're done." We were done. Everybody was done. So you can only win with Brady Cook. Drew Pine is not the quarterback. That's another thing.
That's another thing we did learn, which I think we already knew. Or
you mostly were on there, but definitely now.
We learned that this team will not win. Certainly will not win a road SEC game against a good team. May not win an SEC game with a quarterback other than Brady Cook that's on the roster at the moment. Now, given a few weeks to, practice with the ones, get more accustomed to being the guy.
That's what he was doing this week.
Yeah, maybe until at least till later on.
Brady Cook wasn't at practice
early. Yeah, or maybe Mississippi State. We can circle Mississippi State and say that's the game.
There you go.
But once again, it's on the road. That back to your point. So we learned that it's Brady Cook or bust. We really knew that already. But if you didn't know that, if you weren't paying attention, that's the case. So we learned that. We learned that they're certainly going to be going portal shopping again this spring. If they weren't already planning on doing that, they certainly are now. And we learned that. I feel like I did learn that I'm more and more impressed with Corey Batoon's game planning coming into games each week. I was really impressed with how his defense was prepared today, just like last week. Just like the last time they had a kind of a different challenge in Boston College. Came in with a really, really solid game plan, and the defense was executing it up until it didn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They were packing the line of scrimmage. They were shutting down the run. They were up in the trenches against Alabama, who has a very good offensive line, at least in the run game. They were winning. They were holding their own, if not winning, in the first half. They were getting pressure on Milroe. They were forcing short passes. He is not accurate in the medium passes, which we saw today. He can hit deep shots, and they didn't give him enough time to hit those deep shots early on. And all that together means that they were stuffing him, minus a really boneheaded penalty from your 6-year senior on the first drive of the game, and then a missed holding call a little bit later in that drive. They would have had him shut out until the drive, till after Cook got hurt, because he went out and they got the second field goal right after his last drive. So they were right there in it. They were doing their part. And we could talk about the offense more, but when it comes down to it, when you don't have Brady Cook, it's just not, it's whatever you had schemed up from Curry Moore's perspective, it wasn't going to work. There wasn't a shot. So I did learn that I think Batum is a guy that can get this defense, and has this defense where it needs to be for this to be a winning team. Unfortunately, the other side of the ball, for a number of reasons, isn't there.
Yep. Here's what I don't know. I don't know if Brady Cook is going to play again. And I don't want to come across as doom and gloom, but, between the ankle and now the hand, what's the severity? We don't know. I was kind of trying to find scrolling through the post-game comments. I didn't hear anything about Brady Cook's updated status, and I'm sure Drinkwitz doesn't know at this point. I mean, he had to go into Alabama's locker room to get an X-ray, for Pete's sake. Like, you're really not gonna get a good idea, 30 minutes after the game is done. And so, but I really don't know. I don't know if he's going to be able to play again. And this isn't it's not questioning Brady Cook's drive, competitive, like it. Hand in an ankle, man. Like, you have a bye week before you play Oklahoma. I am choosing to tell myself right now, because I cannot be proven wrong yet, that this staff took Cook into the locker room early to get him ready for the second quarter, saw the pick, the interception, and then the touchdown, and said, screw it, we're saving him for Oklahoma in the backstretch. That's what I'm choosing to think right now, because the opposite is this team, who had playoff implications, might not win another game for the rest of the year. So
yeah, that's our best hope. That's our best hope. Knowing Brady Cook, I don't think he would have looked a lot more upset on the sideline. Well, I don't know. I don't know what his reaction would be. He certainly wasn't happy on the sideline because he was hurt.
No.
Being down 13 points, that's 2 scores. If he felt like he could get back in the game, he's going to put up a fight to get back in the game. Now, if the coaches say no, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out. We'll probably find out tomorrow afternoon. He's going to get home. He's going to go to the Missouri Orthopedic Institute and get their fancy machines to look at it and, do and look at his hand. Cause that's the issue here. His ankle is probably going to bother him the rest of the season one way or another, but he showed that he could play on it. Was he 100%? No, but he could get out of the pocket. He could move around. He could throw the ball downfield. It's the hand that's going to be the difference. And if he broke it, throwing hand, you can't hold on to a football if you break your hand, because often you're going to have to get surgery on that thing anyway. So if he broke his hand, I don't think, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think there's a way he plays again this season. If he bruised it, if it was like a sprain or a weird ligament thing or something, who knows, or if it was more of a wrist than a hand, because he was kind of doing this, which made me think maybe it was a wrist initially, but who knows? It's your throwing hand. You have to be able to use that to hold a football, interfere football. I know it's not rocket science, but we'll find out. We'll find out, because Oklahoma coming up in 2 weeks, they aren't going to be able to score a whole lot of points, but they're going to be able to stop Drew Pine's offense very easily. They have a solid, good defense, and if they feel like they're coming into that game with a shot, because our offense is as deficient as theirs, then they're going to give it their 100%. So you go from there and just look down the schedule. South Carolina, they've got a really good defense. Mississippi State doesn't. So who knows there. Arkansas, they're going to be looking for revenge and potentially going for bowl eligibility, because they have a tough few games here coming up. So it's going to be rough if he's not able to go. So
here's your other hope. Look at Curtis Rourke over at Indiana. Had surgery on his thumb. That's a 7 to 10 day recovery window. At least that's what they claim. That's insane to me that is the case, but that is what they claim. Bye week. You get home to Columbia tomorrow. You set it up for Monday. 7 days later, it's practice week for Oklahoma. So there's your other hope.
His was a ligament in his thumb, I believe, as opposed to a bone break. So it really just depends on what the injury is.
It depends.
That we don't know yet. We don't know yet.
This can mean anything, right? We don't. Yeah, it can mean anything. So,
yes, there's Bill at the moment.
Yeah. I did learn that Jamal Roberts is going to be pretty good next year, where he's going to be a suitable replacement for Nate Noel, who's your Mr. Outside, right? Kind of hit the big play on those stretch plays. I mean, Alabama was going full bore when he was on the field, and he was getting yards, which is good. I mean, Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll are not here next year. No matter what they want to do, they are not here. Unless if Nate gets a magical medical red shirt, maybe, but like I don't know. Probably not. I mean, he wouldn't want to. You don't want to be a super old running back in college. So I like that. I like seeing Jamal Roberts run. Obviously, a St. Louis kid. It's good to see that happen. I thought Johnny Walker Jr. was having a great game in the first half before everything stunk. And everyone kind of packed it in.
Not a whole lot of other bright spots.
That's it.
I thought Toriano Pride looked pretty good in the first half. He had some nice coverage plays downfield in man coverage. Not so much in the second half, but once again, by that point, I think the defense was just stretched too thin. It's hard to pull anything from the defensive performance in the second half once it was so clear that it just didn't matter anymore.
I will say, I think the pass defense is better with Nick Delochin, but yes, it was good to see Pride have some one-on-one moments and win a few, especially against the competition that they're going against. But yeah. I mean, Jalen Milroe was not impressive. The Jeremy Bernard kid kind of came out of nowhere. He has been very quiet up until this point, and he went off. Ryan Williams got a couple of targets for some big yards and an impressive play here or there, but it was not an overly impressive Alabama offense. And I think we all knew that heading in, which makes it even more frustrating. Because now, I put it on Twitter. I'll say it again here. We entered this season with 2008 expectations, and the outcome is going to be 2009, where you had a really good quarterback that gets injured and you have no one to replace him with. And so now it's all contingent on, well, we better hope our 60% quarterback can win the game for us.
And you go 8-4
and lose to Navy.
Yeah.
On New Year's Eve.
I hope. I was at that game. That wasn't fun.
I was there too. That was my last game in college. It sucked.
I drove 3 hours to Houston and then had to get back in the car and drive 3 hours home at like midnight. That was not a fun game. I don't want to end up there again, and I definitely don't want to play Navy this year. So let's not go 8-4.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks, and there's really nothing you can do. And this one, again, this is different than the A&M game. A&M, it was your first real defense that you faced, and you absolutely crumbled. Like there's nothing you could do. And then it got so far away from you that it didn't matter anymore. And then here, 5 drives in and Brady Cook's injured and you don't have a backup quarterback. All right. So, hey, I just triggered myself. I put this in beyond before the box score, or that beyond the box score for Auburn. I know we've already talked about this. I'll say it again. College teams do not have good backup quarterbacks. Stop it. Stop fooling yourself. Texas is an exception to the rule. Alabama in 2017 when Tua replaced Jalen, whatever that was.
2019.
Yeah, that's an exception. Ohio State does not have good, competent quarterbacks. Look at them last year. Okay. If you have a great backup quarterback, then your staff is screwed up because they should be playing that guy instead. Okay. And especially in this day and age, you cannot just hoard quarterbacks, especially experienced ones or ones who think that they can win and other teams think they can win. So I know everyone's like, well, let's talk about Drinkwitz's ability to identify quarterback talent. Okay. He threw a bag at a baseball player who hurt his arm. Drew Pine was a whiff. Aiden Glover's not ready. Jabari Johnson was not ready. He's not even playing right now, and he's over in Washington. Like, you do not have good backup quarterbacks. If you go to your backup, you are screwed. And that's true for 130 of the 134 FBS teams out there. So
yeah, your
it's
best
not
case scenario is you have a true freshman, highly recruited player who is the backup because he came in not ready, but by the middle of the season, maybe he's able to come in and his talent will overwhelm the fact that he's not quite prepared to play at this level. That's the rare exception to the rule, and that may very well be the case for Mizzou next year when they have a 5-star quarterback coming in, and he's not going to be ready to start at the start of the season because he's recovering from a gruesome leg injury. Now he'll fully recover, but he's not going to be ready. I can't imagine he'll be ready. He'll be the starter to start the year next year. But if something goes wrong, that would be an opportunity. Well, maybe by end of October, he's up to speed enough that you could be okay with putting a guy like that in. But that's your best case scenario for having a good, quote unquote, good backup. Because otherwise, that guy, if he's a good backup, he's somewhere else. And if he's a backup for any other reason, it's because he failed somewhere else and transferred over just to be a backup. See who we have on the roster right now, or he was never good enough in the first place, and he's kind of destined to be a second or third string guy in the SEC, and he might end up transferring down a level if he wants to play. So that is the state of college football these days, and it will not change. If anything, it's going to get more that case as guys will transfer. Eli Holstein transferred from Alabama to Pitt. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you at the start of his college career, he had no intention of playing for Pitt. He's like, I'm going to play and win national championships for Alabama. Oh, wait, I can't get on the field. I'll go to Pitt. And hey, now we're undefeated. That's fun. Maybe we'll make the playoff at Pitt. Mm-hmm. So Mizzou needs to look for their Eli Holstein next year. We were kind of hoping that maybe Drew Pine could have turned into that. Not the case. Don't think that's going to be the case. Love you, Drew, but it's just not going to happen. I don't think. And I guarantee you, Pitt has no backup. If something happened to Eli Holstein, Pitt's not going to win. They're not going to go undefeated the rest of the season, even against an ACC schedule. So that's the way that college football works these days, and it's not going to change.
Pitt's backup is actually a Penn State transfer named Christian Veilleux. He's from Ontario.
It sounds a lot like Drew Pine to me.
Well, he's 6'4", 220, so he's taller.
Yeah,
anyway,
he's taller, taller one.
Maybe you could go Nate Yarnell from Lake Travis. I know you're a little Texas boy for you. Yeah. But yeah, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. So, I mean, I think, did we do this on a show? Maybe we did it after a show. I don't know. We're going to do it again because, we're only 22 minutes into this thing and it's a little too early. So thinking about quarterbacks that exist out there who have some eligibility left after this year, who do you, not who can Mizzou get? That's a different question. Who do you, Nathan Hurst, want to come in to be Missouri's quarterback next year?
I mean, I could go down the list. There's a lot of guys I would love.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
But whether they're going to get into the transfer portal or not, that's a whole nother question.
Doesn't matter. Who do you want? Who do you want?
We got, let's look. Most likely, if it's going to be you want a starter, you want a guy that is good enough to play. And the chances that they get someone already at the Power 5 level, well, at the SEC or Big Ten level, very low, I think. Yeah. To come at was potentially a lateral move. Now Mizzou does have a better NIL situation than a lot of teams, especially with guys like Brady Cook and Luther Burden coming off the payroll, open up some cap space, if you will. My gosh, my brain is going. You look at it like, let's say Florida has a coaching change at the end of the year, and DJ Lagway comes on the market. He took a lot of money from Florida. Take a lot of money to get him, but I don't know if he'd be thrilled to stay at Florida if his coach leaves. Somebody like that. Ideally, look at what Miami has with Cam Ward. Now he's gone. His eligibility will be out, but they pulled him from another P5 at the time team at Washington State. So you want to see, you're looking for a guy like that is good, is experienced, and maybe wants to take a slight step up or a full step up from a G5 team. You're Byron Brown from South Florida.
Yep.
I don't even know who. like I got someone from like Boise State. I'm not, their quarterback isn't amazing, but that kind of level of a program that could make a step up and go. We'll have I think I'll have better names for you at the end of the season where we can kind of see it who actually wants to leave their current situation to know who we want to go get. But it's got to be somebody. They've got to pull in somebody. Matt Zollers may be very good here, but it's not going to happen next year. So they got to get somebody.
I agree. Byron Brown would be my choice in South Florida. I know they're not having as great a year this year, but I still think he's pretty good. Daniel Kalen over at Nebraska, who was committed to Mizzou for a while. I'm bring him back. Not that he's playing right now. He's not going to be playing with the Raiola kid sitting there the entire time. Boy. I mean, you want to poach a 5-star who's currently sitting on the bench, like get a DJ Lagway. I mean, you are bringing in a Matt Zollers, and is that something that would even make a lot of sense? How about Alonzo Barnett, James Madison? That would be a good one. I like him. He's 6'2", 206. He's a little short, but you go something like that. Really not a lot of good choices here. Scrolling through.
There's always going to be a surprise name or two that
sure.
that decide to leave and like, oh, I didn't even know that guy was going to be available. So it's kind of too early to go wish-welling at this point, I think. But there's got to be somebody. There's going to be some options with the NIL money that Mizzou has to throw around. I think they're going to be able to find somebody. Now, whether they are able to come in and play well, that's going to be on the coaches, I think. But they're going to have some options.
Yeah, they are. And, they're going to need it. Jaden Rashada, he's sitting at Georgia right now. I guess Carson Beck's probably going to leave. So
yeah, he'll definitely be. I mean, he'll be next up there.
You would assume so.
And it would be his third stop. Now that's not a deal breaker, but at the same time, like, I'm like, stick somewhere, dude. I guess this is Drew Pine's third stop too. But at that point, when you start getting to third stops, you start, saying, well, so why is this guy moving 3 different times? So that's probably
pretty much
for a lot of cases. Cam Ward not included. That might be a red flag.
Yeah. AJ Swan at LSU, the former Vanderbilt kid, he was okay. Casey Thompson's done. Grab like Jackson Arnold, get him out of Oklahoma. I don't know. He sucks. It's not great. It's not great. Unless Matt Zollers wants to come out and be a rock star.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I don't want to say that I would be against that. It's
but you
very unlikely that a true freshman can come in and play well in an SEC level.
And that Eli Drinkwitz doesn't play freshman quarterbacks. Yeah. He plays
especially ones that only played half of their high school senior year because they got hurt. Like, that just delays development.
God. Yeah, it's not great. Well, before the season even started, and I do my count the ifs piece, I always say, assuming no major injuries, and even at this one, I put, even with a major injury, I still think this team can win 7 games, and I still stand by that. That is still true. If you have Drew Pine, you can win 7 games. I don't know which one, probably Mississippi State, but I don't know which one, and you'll lose all the others. So that is still true. But just playoffs done. You're not going to have any impressive wins from here on out, so you're not getting into the playoff, which stinks. But did you want to see this team in the playoff? Like, you want to see Mizzou in the playoff, but you want to see this Mizzou team in the playoff? They get stomped. You don't want to. It would have been a very short.
I'd rather get in there and get stomped than not get in there. Okay. Better to have loved and lost than to have never loved.
Yeah.
But I mean, this team, even at full health, wasn't going to make any serious noise in the playoff this year. But anytime you get to the point where you could contend to do that, you want to take advantage, because Mizzou will not have a chance every single year to contend for the playoff. This was one of those years. Maybe they'll have another one very soon. I hope they do. But we can't, a program like Mizzou can't count on it coming around every year or every other year like a lot of other programs can.
Sure. But also, this goes back into what we view sitting, for 7 months before the season starts versus what the season ends up being. We said Boston College and Vanderbilt would be slam dunk wins. Turns out they're top 50 programs, right? We thought South Carolina and Mississippi State would suck. Well, I mean, Mississippi State does, but South Carolina is 28th best team in the nation. They had like a top 20 defense. You don't know. The whole thing was that we had an easy SEC schedule. And I think we still do, but everybody was harder than we anticipated. A&M was ready right out the gate. Did not anticipate that. Auburn is still very good despite the only 2 wins. Like, they're still a top 30 team. It's just there's too much fluctuation, and we are running this SEC schedule back, mind you. It's the same next year, so it just flips at Vandy, A&M at home, Auburn on the road, Bama at home, at Oklahoma, South Carolina at home, Mississippi State at home, at Arkansas. Okay, we still got 4 games to go, but like we're running this thing back. It could be this next year, but who the heck knows? Who the heck knows? It's impossible. So there's going to be more opportunities, I promise.
The more opportunities, yes, but the stars aligning with the schedule and the roster. Returning the amount of talent and production that this offense returned from last year. That's really the combination of those is what had made it seem like the stars were going to align this year for it to happen.
Yes.
Could it happen again next year? Yes, it could. It's the same schedule. We get Alabama at home. Maybe they could have a better shot that game. They're going to be Jalen Milroe is probably going to be moving on. They get Oklahoma on the road, but maybe their offense is going to still suck. Hard to say.
Well, they just fired their offensive coordinator, so like it's very tough to tell.
They get Texas A&M back at home, so yes, it could happen again. But once we go back to who's going to be the quarterback, our top returning receiver is going to be Brett Norfleet, or maybe if Josh Manning puts up some more, gets a few more catches, that's the top returning receiver on the team. So 3 offensive linemen, 3 offensive linemen leaving. So it's going to be a very different team next year.
It is, but like the whole point is that we thought the stars were aligned and they were not. Right. We thought the schedule was going to be easy, and it's not as easy as we thought it was. We thought the returning production would mean this team would not take any kind of regression, and they did, because the explosive plays are not there anymore. You talk about the most highly anticipated football seasons in Mizzou history. Your mind, if you are around our age, your mind goes to 2008. And it was 4 losses. Now, context is different back then, but you lost to Oklahoma State in week 5, 6, something like that, and then got smoked by Texas. You lost to Kansas, lost to Oklahoma, barely beat Northwestern. Like, that season sucked. Expectations plus the actual reality. This season, you thought everything would stay the same. It didn't. You thought the schedule would be easy. It's not. We thought our quarterback was not going to get injured, and he's going to be full health. And we still don't know if that's going to be the case, but it could not be. The best seasons, the season where Mizzou makes a run, is when you do not see it coming. 2007, 2010, 2013, 2023. It feels frustrating for this season because, yes, we thought things would be true that turned out being not true. And that's what sucks. But if you run this schedule back with lower expectations and maybe a different cast of characters, who the heck knows, man? Yeah. And again, if you just get marquee wins and you're in the SEC, 2 wins, maybe that gets you in.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as overly pessimistic that Mizzou can't be back in a playoff contention on a regular basis. But what is regular for Mizzou versus what is regular for other SEC programs? It's just not going to be. It's not going to be a year in and year out thing, no matter how well. We're a long way from that. We're a long way from that if it ever gets to that point. So could it happen next year? Yes, it could. Could it happen in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Sure, absolutely. Each year is a different year. But all the things that Mizzou could control, how they played on the field, those things haven't turned out how we had hoped that they would, how they would hope they would turn out. Now, injuries happen, yes, but even in the first 7 games before the injury to Brady Cook, it's still, this team didn't look like a playoff team, despite who we thought we had on the team, who we knew we had on the team based on prior production. And was the schedule, like, were some of the teams, we talked about the teams that are better, end up being better than we thought, Vanderbilt, Boston College. Yeah, they are better. You still beat them. Those games aren't what jumped up and bit this team in the foot. It's it's games we already knew were going to be the hard games on the schedule, and they were non-competitive in those games, and that was the problem. Now, if they had gone in and taken it to the fourth quarter and lost, just last team with the ball wins kind of a thing, or a fluky fumble and at the wrong time cost you a game, that's one thing. But to go into the games we already had identified as being the tough games and then just get smoked both times, that's what's that's what hurts.
And that's why you're not a playoff team anymore, because you went up against 2 playoff caliber teams and were uncompetitive for different reasons. So RIP Mizzou's playoff run 2024. You made it 10th month of the year, almost 11th month. That's pretty good, but we'll try it again some other time. There are many things to dive into, especially as we get into a bye week and just post-mortem this thing, this Alabama loss. And there'll be plenty of time to do that, but it's not going to be tonight, because I'm going to enjoy an adult beverage and eat some Luther chips. I think that's what I'm going to do. So how do you recover from losses? What are you going to do?
Some holiday Oreos that are about to get housed over there, the red ones with the red icing. Yeah. I'm eyeballing them right now. I'm going to house those. Just kind of eat my feelings and regret it in the morning. But, that's Sunday Nathan's problem.
Yeah.
And
look, man.
Now we're dealing with Saturday Nathan's depression. So we'll take it one day at a time.
I have been eating my feelings for 10 years now, and I don't know how much I need to do it to be happy, but it's not yet. So I have to keep going. I ain't a quitter.
Yeah. At the bottom of that chip bag, maybe you'll find some joy.
Yeah. Or at least a sweaty mouth. But that's going to be the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. And leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at H.E. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hurst. Of course, you can follow the Rockham flagship at Rockham Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rockham Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, M-I-Z.
Z-O-U.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock M Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock M Radio is the official podcast network of Rock M Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock M Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rockm.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock M Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock M Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock M Radio coming to you soon.